Welcome to Crew Talk, brought to you by Shoot Stop Video. I'm your host today, Sarah, and I'm glad to be back with you. It's been a few weeks, but I'm very excited to be here and to be with our two guests today. We have Craig and Edward. Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it going, Sarah?
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. We have, of course, our list of questions today. But before we dive into any of that or introductions, I just want to let everybody who is tuning in to know if you have any questions throughout the webcast, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box, and we will definitely get to them, whether we answer them personally or we talk about them on the webcast. We will definitely get to your questions. And I guess we'll just start with some introductions. Craig, do you just want to tell us who you are, where you are, and just a little snippet of what you do?
Absolutely, Sarah. Thanks. So, my name's Craig Herring. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Suite. We're based in Boulder, Colorado, and we're making cloud-based workflows really easy and accessible for all post-production studios.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to dive into that in a little bit because it's something I don't know a lot about. So.
Yeah.
Edward, hey.
Hey, thanks for having us. Yeah, I'm Edward from Hungary, and I'm a YouTuber. I make tutorials about video editing and animation, and I'm a founder of a company called Videoplasty, which is basically an online marketplace for stock animation and stock GIF images.
Very cool. And from what you were saying earlier, you have a pretty nice following on YouTube for your tutorials.
Yeah, it's definitely growing. I mean, I never imagined myself as being a YouTuber, but I guess at this point I can, say I'm not a YouTuber. It's definitely going well.
Awesome. Well, very cool. Well, Craig, let's dive into your world a little bit first. So you have Suite Studios. So you kind of told us a little bit about it. Do you want to just dive in and give us like the full view of what Suite Studios is?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's basically all this technology out there that unfortunately a lot of creatives aren't really aware of. So for really what it comes down to is shifting the post-production process itself. So the actual editing, color grading, VFX work, whatever that might be, to these cloud-based workstations and to the cloud fully, rather than just using the cloud as that like transfer step, like cloud storage, Dropbox, Google Drive, actually moving that editing process to that cloud-based location. And it really creates this new kind of world of possibilities for post-production studios, whether it's how they're collaborating, whether it's the actual technical kind of, CPU and performance kind of requirements that they need, or whether it's just how they're storing their files. It really kind of opens that up. And that's, what we're doing is really making that easy for studios who don't have that technical know-how, who don't have these IT salaries on board to actually make that shift and do so easily so they can benefit from the benefits that come from that type of workflow.
So are you kind of taking out a middle step or like a middleman in the whole process by doing this?
So, kind of. So really, I guess what you're taking out is most studios are very familiar with, like when it comes time to sharing assets, right? They're either shipping hard drives through the mail, or they're probably, uploading it to, let's say, Google Drive. Then someone on the other end is downloading that. So really removing the need to have that transfer step, and it changes, and now it becomes hey, the files are on your cloud-based workstation. I don't need to mail those to you. I don't need to transfer those to you. You can just access that with a sign-in and have, whether it's a terabyte, 50 terabytes, it doesn't really matter. You can have immediate kind of access to all those files. And then, removing that whole step for how studios are working with their team members.
Oh, okay. Very cool. So what was holding back post-production studios from switching to cloud-based workflows, and like what's changed?
Yeah, so there's two big ones. Definitely the biggest was even a year ago, the stream quality of this, basically of just when you're accessing these workstations, was just not there. So let's look at, early 2020, the stream would have latency. It wouldn't feel as smooth as it does on local computers. And when you're creating video content, animation content, that experience has to be really, really good, right? So by basically in that last, let's call it year and a half, that's drastically changed, where now you're looking at 4K streams, you're looking at 60 frames per second, the color is perfect. And that's really allowed this new shift to really start happening, where now studios don't have to compromise between, having a smooth experience and also having like a smooth way of sharing files between everyone on their team. And the second aspect of that is really internet speed. So when you're talking about 4K files, 8K files, uploading those, a few years ago, especially as internet maybe wasn't, especially fiber, right, as available as it is now, would be a challenge. So getting files up to a cloud-based workstation, while the cloud-based workstation is great, if it takes 3 weeks to upload those files, it's not that usable, right? So now with that kind of access, especially with 5G starting to come out, it's now almost comparable to shipping a hard drive. So if you're in a location with a solid internet, it's probably faster than shipping a hard drive. So now you can get those files to that end location quicker, and then also you get all these benefits after that. So those are kind of the two things that we're holding the shift back, and now they're fading away day by day. So
very cool. I guess I didn't realize people still like shipped hard drive. Like to me that sounds very old school to do, because
yeah.
you don't really mail anything anymore. But okay, so that's neat. I didn't know that. But Edward, what are your thoughts on this? Your take on Suite Studios?
Yeah, actually, actually, I'm really curious about how all of this works, because it sounds very interesting. Like from a technical point of view, I'm wondering, I mean, first of all, like what sort of software do you guys support? I think it's from what I've seen, like DaVinci Resolve, maybe something from Adobe. And also from my side, as I guess not a big studio, but like a smaller producer, right? Just a YouTuber with an editor as well on the side.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, if you have any plans to introduce Final Cut Pro at some point. And second, and I guess we'll get to that later, like I'm curious exactly how this sort of thing works. Like, do you install like a plugin in your video editing software, or are you like literally streaming the image, kind of like a Google Stadia of video editing, if that makes sense?
Got it. Yeah. So I'm going to actually start with what the actual product is and how it actually works. So
Yeah.
once you sign into Suite, you're presented with a dashboard to manage this cloud-based workstation that's yours. It's private to you. I'm talking like starting and stopping that workstation, changing the settings of that, right? So once you actually are inside the workstation, conceptually speaking, it's very similar to how a remote desktop works, right? So remote desktop, most people are familiar with that. And basically it's accessing another computer from a computer in a different location. Conceptually, it's very similar. I kind of hate using this example because the performance is quite different. But basically what you're doing is you're streaming a full-on Windows machine that is cloud-based instead of streaming a desktop that's in a room somewhere. And again, the stream's like great quality and the experience is really fluid, but once you're inside that cloud-based workstation, you have basically full capabilities to do whatever you could do on a regular PC. So if you want to install Adobe, you can do that. If you want to install DaVinci, you can do that. If you wanted to go on YouTube and just watch YouTube videos, you totally could do that. But it's not really what it's designed for, right? So yes, you can install really any software, plugins, LUTs, again, really whatever you want. It's your computer to use as you will. And then the reason why we currently don't support Final Cut is Mac is basically Windows is definitely leading the whole cloud-based workstation. Let's call it like a movement, right? So Windows and PCs, there's a lot of different ways that you can set up and configure these. Unfortunately, right now with Apple, the only comparable, if you will, type computers that they're offering in the cloud are Mac Minis. So for a lot of video work, it's just not performant enough to make that switch, which is why currently we aren't supporting Final Cut. That said, I'm a Mac person myself. I'm on a Mac right now. And fortunately, we do have some Mac-friendly kind of features here. So one of the things we can do is it's very easy. You can toggle it yourself, is like reroute all the keyboard shortcuts to be Mac friendly. So instead of Control C being copy, it's Command C and so forth. So once you're actually inside Adobe, for example, it's going to feel very much like you're on your local computer. Most of the times when I'm on Adobe on Suite, I forget I'm even on this cloud-based workstation. And a big part of that is because you can like reroute everything. So it feels friendly. But yes, that is why we don't currently support Final Cut. However, as advances are made there, and we can start, adding support for more powerful Mac instances, we'll, I'm sure, be making that kind of improvement and switch there.
Yeah, well, hopefully with the new M1s and M1 Max and M1 Pro that just came out. I mean, I'm actually literally waiting right now for a Mac Mini with a M1 chip.
Yep.
Apparently, it's going to be good enough for editing in Final Cut Pro and doing 4K videos and anything like that. So,
Yep.
hopefully soon enough you're going to be able to implement something like that. So I guess then this is basically kind of like, I don't know if you're familiar, but I just discovered it like last year, something like Google Stadia, for example, where you can kind of play videos in the cloud, and like doesn't matter what sort of computer or laptop you're on, because you're
Yep.
basically just streaming just the image, but the whole thing runs in, on Google's cloud.
Yes.
And I guess what you're doing is exactly the same thing, but just for video editing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why
Yeah.
I like throwing that example out, right? It's spot on. A lot of, there were some gaming companies too that were doing this for gaming. Again, so it's the same world, same technology. It's just how you're applying it. And I think the biggest difference comes down to that stream quality. So a lot of these other companies doing it for whatever, different industries, a lot of these other industries don't require a like super low latency stream. And that's where, for again, creating like this visual content and videos, it's really important to have that stream feel as close to it does as close as it can be to your local machine, right? So that's something we've been putting a lot of focus and effort towards, is getting that to feel like you're working on that local computer.
So do you need like crazy fast internet to use this?
So yeah, so it's funny, sir. A lot of people think that. A lot of people, when we actually like first talk to them about what we're doing, they're like, oh, this is great, but there's no way I could, send red raw files right through my network. It's not fast enough. But no, you actually don't need to have blazing fast internet. So all you're really doing, again, is streaming that workstation like a video, right, down to your local network or to your local computer. So what we like to tell studios simply is like, if you can stream Netflix, you can probably use this workstation, right? And then to get a little more specifically, we like to place that kind of like lower barrier at around like 20-25 megs down. So if you're looking at a download speed of around there, you're going to have a pretty smooth experience. Anything over 40 and your experience is going to be great. So you don't need to have like 2 gigs down or some crazy advanced and fast network to actually utilize this, which is awesome. Funny story. I actually was in Jackson Hole last year, and we had terrible Wi-Fi at our Airbnb. I actually was able to access Suite and like use one of the workstations from a hotspot on my phone because the service was actually pretty good. So yeah, you don't need to have this kind of crazy internet.
It's good to know. That's
yeah.
good. Can you kind of share an example of how a studio's workflow would change by using Suite, or like if you have a specific example?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways studios are using this technology. I think one of the big ones, and something that impacts a lot of studios, is especially now, right? We had obviously COVID-19, and COVID was just crazy with the industry. Teams are now like remote, and for this industry, it was, for some studios especially, it was very hard to do that. So the way it changes, right, is now, let's just run through an example. So you've got a video project going on. You have this videographer somewhere shooting this project. He has all the assets. He has to get those assets to your studio. So right now, again, shipping a hard drive, maybe he's uploading them to Google Drive or something. Then after that happens, your studio is probably going to back up those assets, and then you're going to get them in the hands of an editor, an assistant editor, right? And that handoff process maybe happens 3 or 4 times, right? Audio, color, and so forth. What changes with Suite is now, once you make that initial transfer, so going back, you have this videographer that shoots this project. He has all the assets. Rather than uploading them to Google Drive to be downloaded somewhere else, or rather than shipping a hard drive, he can just upload them directly to that, again, that cloud-based storage location. And now it's like, hey, Sarah, all the files are exactly, on the workstation where you need them. And now it's as simple as you just going in and actually signing into the workstation, and you have immediate access to all those files. So if it comes time to hand them off to Edward to do the color or something on this project, you can just do that same thing and say, hey, here's the login, or here's access to the project. He can join, and he's going to have immediate access to that. So you take out all of those transfer steps, and it really opens that door there. And that's probably the biggest and most obvious way that like studios, how it's kind of changing how they're working, is it just makes that handoff pretty instantaneous.
Making
So I
everything
guess then,
easier.
sorry.
No,
So I
go
guess
ahead.
then multiple people can use the exact same workstation.
Exactly. So
Mm.
right now it's set kind of arbitrarily at 4. We can change that, but yeah, right now you can have 4 people in a workstation at the same time. So what's cool is, especially right before COVID, when studios were maybe more locally based, you'd have a couple edit suites, and then you'd have producers, and they'd go in with the editor and like watch over their shoulder and give feedback and everything that way. What's cool is now you can have that same exact capability, but you can be across the country or in different states or wherever, and you're both going to be looking at the exact same screen at the exact same time. And then if someone else wants to try something or take control, rather than saying, hey, I don't like this, and trying to walk them through it, with their words, they can just say, hey, let me drive real quick, grab the mouse, take control, and do what they want to do. So it becomes really instantaneous there.
That's pretty cool. It's making working from home even easier.
Exactly. Yeah. And
It's nice.
it's
Everybody wants that.
yeah. And I remember the first time, back when we were starting this, we basically got this proof of concept together, and I was in Florida at the time. And my brother, who's our CTO, was in Colorado, and we were actually editing a B-Raw Blackmagic 4K project in real time together across the country. And it was like the coolest thing, because again, just like so fluid, and it just worked really well. So definitely like a new, it was the first time I've experienced something like that, which is really cool.
That's awesome. We
Yeah.
have a question, and I don't understand this, so if I mess this up, sorry. But
No.
does Suite have its own NLE for editing, or are users able to install their preferred software? I don't
Got
know
it.
what an NLE is, so you
So
might have to explain that.
all that's really referring to, right, is like the editing software, like Adobe, DaVinci,
Okay.
all,
Okay.
all those type of tools. So no, Suite does not have its own NLE. And Edward kind of addressed this, right, is you can install basically any software you want. So yes, and that was really important. There are some cloud-based solutions out there that are doing something similar to what we're doing. But most of them have their own kind of editing platform and NLE, right, that they're actually basically forcing their users to use. And as like I've been on Adobe for over 10 years now, a lot of creatives have their tool that they love using for XYZ parts of their projects. And that was something that we didn't want to kind of force people to switch out of. Adobe, DaVinci, they're all very good at what they do. So yeah, exactly. You can install and use whatever tools you want.
Is this a membership type thing? Like, are there different tiers? Like, how does it work on the user side?
Got it. Yeah. So basically, there's like 2 factors to this. So there's a monthly subscription to the actual platform. So you get access to that dashboard and to your workstation. And then you also really what that breaks down to is how much storage do you need as a user, and that's kind of decides how much that's going to cost for you to actually like subscribe to. It's not like a contract or anything like that. Again, it's very month to month. And then the other kind of aspect is you have this cloud-based workstation, and because it's in the cloud, you can scale your CPU resources. So this is something we haven't actually really dove into yet, but basically you can have, hey, I'm going to turn on my workstation and it's going to be equivalent to like a $4,000 editing desktop. Or, hey, this project's really, really heavy. It's tons of CGI, tons of VFX. I need a lot more power for this. I'm going to use a $12,000 workstation or computer right now for this project. And it's always going to look and feel exactly like it does, or like it was, right? So if all your files are going to look the same, everything's going to be exactly as you left it. It's just going to now have more resources attached to that. So that's the second piece of this, is basically you have the control to use whatever level you need for your projects. And then there's just a different cost basically associated with, dependent on what level workstation you're actually using.
Yeah, now that you mentioned the cost, I'm curious, like how does that work? I mean, you said you can like turn on a very high level, like $12,000 desktop. Like, is that like for the full month, or like is it just for a day, or how does pricing work for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we have three kind of different options you can choose. So it's kind of funny how we name them. It's pretty straightforward. It's fast, faster, and fastest. So basically the fast workstation is really good for most 4K work, especially if you're using like an efficient codec like B-raw or something like that. And it's billed hourly. So it's technically billed to the second, but the way we kind of relate this is it's an hourly rate. So that workstation you're looking at $2.80 an hour. The next workstation up is really for like 6K, 8K type work, heavier VFX type projects. That jumps up to $6 an hour. And then that next workstation up is really for, we're talking like Unreal Engine, Cinema 4D, really heavy VFX 3D rendering type stuff. And that is just over $9 an hour. So basically the way it works is you turn on these workstations, you only get charged, again, it's like per second for when those workstations are running. And then as soon as you shut that off, you basically stop getting charged for that, right? So for a typical like 1-2 day 4K type project, you're probably looking at like 30 or so dollars to like use this platform, which is in the grand scheme of a production budget, generally speaking, pretty small. So that's kind of how it breaks down.
Okay, so I'm curious, like, how does that work then on top of the? I mean, I'm looking at the website right now, and I see something with like $100 a month. Is that
Yep.
just like a membership for like the storage, I guess, like 1 terabyte of SSD storage, and on top of that, you can get turn on and off whatever sort of workstation you need.
Correct. Yeah. So that's that
Mm.
monthly part I was talking about. So basically the question is, right, how much storage do you need on this workstation? And there's if you will, right, like a cloud-based SSD attached to that workstation. So how big do you need that to be? And that's where that monthly kind of fee comes in. And again, it's really flexible. If you need to like adjust that, scale it up or down, we can like very easily do that for you. So it's kind of those two factors.
Awesome.
I had a question because I don't think we cover this, and I was just curious. When did you guys launch?
Yeah, so we officially started back in let's call it early spring of last year, and then we basically, I was still at a production studio in Florida at that time. I moved out to Boulder, Colorado of April of this year, and at that point we switched full time. We closed a fundraising round in June of this year, and now we're full time. So we're still technically in beta. What we mean by that is studios can't just go to the site and sign up. We're being very much hands-on with studios that are using the platform right now, really, so we can learn and really work with studios to kind of develop this to be exactly what they need rather than what we think they need. So that's something we've been stressing from the beginning. In early of next year, we'll probably start looking at getting into that core product, and that's when I would really say like will be our full launch.
Okay, so you're kind of like vetting studios who you're working with right now. So if a studio wants to like get on with you guys and use this in your beta testing phase, what are you looking for in a studio, or what should they kind of bring to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So a big thing is how the studio is currently set up. So if you're a studio that has remote workers or remote, whether it's freelancers, whatever that looks like, that's normally like a big check, right? We're really looking for these studios that are remote, studios that are still shipping hard drives or using Google Transfer, some sort of file transfer services. If you're in that kind of world, there's a very good likelihood that Suite would be a great fit for you. And that's one where, those are the studios I would say that we get really excited about, just because they're the ones that are experiencing the pain the most, if you will, right? So it's not to say we totally, for lack of better words, ignore other studios, right? It's more so those are the studios that are really in that, again, that like initial kind of target that we're looking at, and then kind of going out from there as studios. Again, maybe you're not fully remote, but you have projects where you've got remote team members, or maybe you have a really tough time with having enough CPU power to render out these projects and whatnot. Those are all like things that make something like Suite really beneficial to you as a studio. So those are kind of the studios where we're looking for and talking to right now.
Okay, cool. We have a question from Vincent. Hey, Vincent, thanks for tuning in today. He said, how would editors approach customization in using local peripherals like Wacom tablets,
Yeah.
Razer keypads, mice, multi-monitor workspaces, and color grading decks, etc.?
Yeah. So the easy answer to this question is pretty much if it's USB based. Like I know Wacom is obviously like mouses, keyboards, generally speaking, are it integrates very easily with Suite. Multi-display, I think, was another. I'm going to go back and open this question up. Like multi-monitor workspaces. We support. I believe right now it's up to 3 monitors. Again, we could probably toggle that, but you can totally have like a full screen preview on one, your color scopes or something on another, and then the timeline on your main. So all that's relatively straightforward right now. If it's not USB, I'd say reach out and talk to us. There may be something that we could do, but generally speaking, if it's USB, you can assume it's going to work pretty well.
Okay, cool. So you're relatively new and it's going well. And, we've kind of talked about a lot of the features of Suite Studio today, but what is like one or multiple like of your favorite features or things that people should know when they're using Suite Studios?
Yeah. I think my favorite thing about I think it's kind of comes in two areas. One is the experience. I think a lot of studios have tried something similar to this. Maybe it was 3 years ago, maybe it was last year, maybe it was 5 years ago. I don't know. They've tried something similar, and at that time, maybe it was again the company or just the limitations of technology at that time. They had a bad experience, and that's something that was really and is really, really critical for this type of work. So one of the things I love about this is I very, very frequently forget I'm on a cloud-based computer and workstation when I'm editing on Suite, which is for me like the best case scenario, right? I want it to feel like I have this beautiful MacBook in front of me. I want it to feel like I'm on that, just with better power. So that's the big one. And then the second thing that's I think is one of the coolest aspects is really collaborating and how that changes how you work. So being able to invite someone in, even if it's just for review or whatever, and being able to have them get their hands on the project in a minute rather than have to go through a shipping hard drive process or a asynchronous, like, hey, I'm going to comment on the timeline, or I'm going to send you time code notes, and then you can do all this work and send it back, and hopefully it's what I was hoping, rather than have to go through that whole guessing process. Being able to just say, hey, assistant editor, hey, producer, here's what I've done. Like, come check this out. And, do you agree with this? That's really cool and a totally new kind of capability for studios. So that's probably my favorite aspect about what we're doing.
Yeah, honestly, for me as well, I mean, this whole collaboration, opens up a whole new world of possibilities. Because I remember, not until long ago, like trying to work on the exact same project with like another person, like editing, and me like coming in to like do the final touches. Like we kept sharing project files back and forth. But then at some point, like we started using like a shared Dropbox folder. But even then, like, I make a couple of edits, for example, and, it's a big project with like big, large file sizes for the footage. Then you have to wait for it to upload to Dropbox. Then, on the other person's computer, it syncs. So it takes like forever to like go back and forth.
Yeah.
But I mean, with something like this, because you just stream it and it's all like both of you get access to the exact same computer in the cloud, it's amazing because it's literally instantaneous. And I love it. Like, I mean, I still use Final Cut Pro. I did use Adobe for like, I don't know, close to 10 years. And then I decided to check Final Cut, just give it a couple of months and see if I like it. And then I just completely made the switch.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be really excited if you guys actually manage to somehow figure out the issue with the Macs and introduce that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I mean, I was a creative director at a studio, and I remember, I actually have a picture of it somewhere. I think it's on my phone, but I remember one of the things were like walking into my office and seeing 70 hard drives with sticky notes on them of like, oh, this is going to this person and this is client ABC. And it's just like, this is 2020. We have some crazy technology out there. We're like putting cars into space or whatever we're doing, right? And like I still have sticky notes on hard drives, and that's the best way to manage this and work with teams across the country. It was just like a huge headache. So being able to remove all that and just have access to what you need when you need it is really cool.
So what was, you said, I forget what you just said you were doing before you kind of launched this, but
Yeah.
was your job before like kind of what sparked the idea and like, I've got to figure out a better way to do this?
Yes, pretty much. I pretty much am, or I should say I was kind of, working at a studio that we're trying to help right now. So I was a creative director at a studio in South Florida. We were doing a variety of different projects, ranging from corporate docs, commercials. We had a TV show with like Lawrence Fishburne, Dennis Quaid. So we were doing some pretty quality work there. And when I remember, like, I was there for about 5 years, and initially I was like, oh, this whole hard drive issue and this whole like workflow issue is probably isolated to our studio. And then as I kind of went up the ranks of that studio and started speaking to and having more responsibility, one of the things I was doing was speaking to basically all these different teams and creative studios that we were using to help produce these videos. And I very quickly learned it wasn't something just isolated to our studio. It was something that a lot of studios were experiencing, and something that a lot of studios were struggling with. And, after shoot, when the first thing the videographer asks is like, hey, where do you want me to send the drive? That becomes apparent pretty quickly. So basically what happened is, it kind of came about pretty organically. My brother was doing some really like heavy lifting with his MacBook, and I was talking to, I think we were on the phone at the time, and I was like, hey, how are you doing this? Because I know your MacBook is not at all powerful enough to do this. And he's like, oh, well, I'm actually using cloud computers for this. And that was when I was introduced to this kind of technology. And he was saying, he's just streaming this workstation that's super powerful. He has all his files and everything he needs on that workstation. And that was kind of when it clicked. And it was, there's this new possibility of, okay, so all your files are there. You can access them immediately just by signing in. I can access it with you at the same time. Is there any reason you couldn't apply this to video? Because like, here's all the things we're struggling with, and this seems like it would work. And he was like, not really. There's no, I don't see any reasons why we couldn't. So that was kind of the start, and we just started grinding away at it. Again, got that proof of concept together, and it worked really well. So it was kind of, took it from there. And it was, again, really like kind of organic how this started.
Very cool. That's awesome. But it seems like it's happening kind of fast too. Like,
yeah, no, yes, it's been crazy. So yeah, now we've got a team of 6, again, based in Boulder, Colorado. And really, so far, just the feedback we've gotten from studios has been incredible. And one of my favorite things, and I think it'll always be one of my favorite things, is when I like first talk to a studio who's curious about what we're doing, and like, hey, this sounds great, but this seems impossible. And like, I love that, because it's like, no, it's not impossible. It's actually really real, and you can utilize this for your production work. And it's just a very eye-opening kind of experience. So I'm super stoked with that and just how things have been going so far.
awesome. Well, congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah.
So what's the timeline moving forward? When do you think like any studio will be able to sign up or, get a subscription or membership? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So as far as being like totally open, where you're not talking to myself or Jay, who's in charge of our customer success, it's hard to put an exact date on that. That said, if someone's interested in kind of getting access, very easy to just go to our site, reach out to us, and we 100% are talking to everyone that does that. So definitely don't hesitate. That said, we do have some really cool kind of technology coming out in the very near future. So sometime in very early 2021, basically how we're actually storing files is going to change a little bit. So right now, workstations have, you can think about the whole like workstation user relationship as very much like one-to-one. Like one user has a workstation, they've got their storage drive, and that's kind of how it works. In, again, let's call it January or so of this upcoming year, that's going to change, where now your team and all your cloud-based workstations are actually going to be able to connect to a cloud-based NAS. So just like how studios work now, where they have a server in their office, all their, editing computers are connected to that, you're going to have that same exact capability, but be able to have it be totally cloud-based. So you can have someone in California, someone in New York, someone in Florida, all working off of the exact same storage location, again, that server in the cloud, to actually work. So that's kind of what's coming, and super excited for that, because that's one thing that, especially as studios grow in size, that server based, if you will, storage is very important. So super excited to be releasing that in the upcoming months.
Very cool. That's exciting. Vincent is back with another question.
Awesome.
He said, how are teams moving the initial footage and project files to ingest into Suite's system? Signiant or Aspira? I don't know if that's
right. So basically right now, I'm going to go and open that up again. The way to actually get footage into your workstation is very much up to the studios themselves. So the way it works right now is, and it actually works out well because most studios are doing this. If you have a CSP, a cloud, storage provider for any aspect of your business, whether it's Dropbox, Google Drive, Frame.io, whatever that may be, basically the way it works right now is going to be the same as to, you're going to upload footage to that location. Then inside that workstation, you're going to pull that down to your Suite storage drive. And once it's there, it's going to be there until you delete it, just like your computer, right? You turn your computer off, you turn it back on, everything's there as you left it. Same exact thing with these cloud-based workstations. So, Vincent, it's really up to you. That initial upload is really the only requirement. Some studios are uploading proxies first so they can get them into the workstation very, very quickly. And then as those full res version or full res files are uploading, they, basically they're working. Once those complete, they just switch over to the full res assets and keep going. It's, again, it's really up to the studio and how they want to do things.
Very cool. And if anyone else has a question, feel free to definitely drop it in the question and answer box now. Edward, so after hearing all of this, I know you kind of chimed in about like Final Cut Pro and everything, but on the production side, like where is your head with all of this?
Yeah, I mean, now that I kind of understood exactly how, what it does and how it works, I mean, obviously the target audience, I guess, is a little bit, studios that are a little bit bigger. But even for someone like me who's just making videos for YouTube and, making a random small video here and there, but I still work remotely. Like my entire team has always been remote. I think this is very exciting. And it's just, I mean, as I said earlier, like it opens up a whole new world of possibilities. And, in a sense, it kind of feels like the future of, how you're going to run any sort of video, whether it's a studio or like any sort of like video operation, like whether you're like a YouTuber or anything like that, especially now that more and more people start working remotely, it just feels like the future. And also if you just do the math, I think in terms of like how much money would invest, to get a super high quality, super performant computer to do some proper editing compared to how much this solution costs, I think it's a no-brainer. So very, very exciting.
Yeah, Edward, how are you actually, I know you've probably got a lot of different aspects to your like stock animation and your business there, but what does your kind of process look like with that? Do you have like a centralized a team that's like editing with these creatives, or is it all, freelancers are basically uploading their specific assets and everything to your site, or what does that kind of look like?
Yeah, well, in terms of the platform with videoplasty.com, where we sell stock animation, it's as you kind of already hinted at earlier, it's two parts. So we have our own in-house team
Okay.
of animators, motion graphics artists that
Yep.
create those animations in Adobe After Effects. It's a bit of a mess, obviously. It's a lot of shared Dropbox folders and things like that. But that will be like one side of it, and the other side is literally other contributors from all over the world who are free to just upload and sell their own products, kind of like you would do on pretty much any other major stock footage website like Shutterstock, Pond5 and anything like that.
Got it. Awesome.
But what excites me, it's not even like this, because those files for Adobe After Effects are pretty small.
Yep.
Right. So I guess, even using something like Dropbox is not a big issue. But what the wheels have been spinning in my head are like for the past 40 minutes is, editing, even my YouTube videos, because you're shooting 4K, maybe you're shooting like ProRes or whatever, files get pretty big. And, I just like to like write the videos and like shoot them, but like I don't necessarily enjoy or have the time to edit all of them. So I kind of like to pass that to someone else. And it's just that's where this whole thing is going to work super nicely.
Yeah.
Or maybe just have to switch to, back to Adobe for a while.
Yeah, exactly. And then you get these cool kind of, I mean, I know just from talking to studios, there's this like push pull, right? Especially if you're in more like rural areas where you can hire someone maybe down the street that's maybe not as experienced, or maybe doesn't have the same resources that a shop or very specialized person or studio does, that's maybe in LA or New York or in like a hub. But if you hire that studio that's in New York or in LA in a hub, now you have the dilemma of, okay, how are we going to actually get files to this person? How are we going to actually work with, like, it's like, okay, I can work with someone maybe more experienced, but it's going to take me twice as long to do this project because we've got to share files and everything like that. And kind of falls in line there with freelancers and passing off projects like you were mentioning. And that's something where, again, like with going that cloud-based approach, there's no longer a downside to working with someone that's across the country in a different state or whatever. It really like opens up that talent pool and like allows your studio to use exactly who you want and who you need for this project, and be able to do that without having to, sacrifice now a bunch of extra days or weeks just because you've got to transfer files or ship files or something like that.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else that you would like to talk about or mention or promote before we wrap up everything?
I don't have anything. I think definitely check out our website is www.suitestudios.io. Definitely check that out. There's a lot of information there on basically what we're doing. Also check out our socials. It's the same thing, just suitestudios.io on all those accounts. Definitely do that. And I'm super excited to be on here talking about what we're doing and to be helping studios improve kind of how they're working. So thank you again for having us.
Yeah, I mean, it's been so much information. For me, it was learning something new.
Yeah.
But for someone like Edward, it's just kind of expanding on his world, like, your world. And so this was very, very cool, very easy to understand as you were, walking us through it. And I did check out your website before, and I like it. It's a very cool website, the way it's like steps, all the steps to what you're doing. And so, yeah, congratulations on how everything is going. And maybe we can catch back up in a year and see what's new and what's coming up.
Absolutely. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah, Edward, you want to take a moment to promote yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I run a YouTube channel, but I guess, the people watching this are already quite familiar with video editing, and, most of our tutorials are pretty, beginner oriented. So there's that. But yeah, I would mention our website is videoplasty.com, and it's basically an online marketplace, a platform where you can purchase ready-to-use pre-animated assets. Basically, it kind of feels like we sort of launched a new sub niche in the stock assets industry because there's literally no other website out there selling this. But yeah, we are dealing in stock animation and stock GIF images.
Awesome. As a YouTuber, aren't you supposed to say like the video and smash that subscribe button? Isn't that like what they all say?
Yeah, don't forget to smash that like button.
Yeah.
I think, what's his name? Who launched this? I think Graham Stephan is a famous financial YouTuber. I think he has like 2, maybe 3 million subscribers now. At least he's the first one that I remember who started saying, don't forget to smash that like button. And then like all of a sudden everyone, and then other people to like kind of stand out. And I think even unconsciously myself as well. And I notice people saying, don't forget to gently tap the like button. So
yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you both for being here with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Great, of course. And if anyone wants to connect online, I'm Sarah Marintz on Instagram and sarahmarintz.com for all your voiceover needs. And I will see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.
Great. Bye.
See you guys.
You might be looking at Shoot Stop Video and thinking, so how does this all work? Is this about A, setting up the whole crew for me, B, just giving me options and having me handle it, or C, something in between? Well, it's D, all of the above. To put it simply, we're here to help you in any way that we can to get the crew and talent you need for your next production. We believe that every level of video production can benefit from a well-maintained list of qualified crew members for every position. This goes for pre-pro, on-set, and for post. Every project is different, so if you need a producer to help manage the decision-making process, then we can totally do that. If you're already a producer and want to build your own crew from scratch, then go for it. We're here to make your next production a success. And if you are crew or talent looking for producers that want you, then you've come to the right place. Sign up now, and also leave a referral for any solid people that you know that are already on here. Thank you for considering Shoot Stop Video, and happy shooting!